Bedtime means bedtime. Sophia rubbed the sleep out of her eyes as she walked down the hall to the bathroom. The clock beside her bed had showed 2:37 a.m. when she woke. She relieved her bladder and washed her hands, then headed back for the warmth of her bed. Out of habit, she glanced down the hall toward Janet's room. She stopped and peered at the door more closely, squinting as her eyes again became accustomed to the dark. "Damn it," she said to herself. Janet's light was on, after she had warned her 3 times to go to bed and stay off that computer. She closed her eyes and rubbed her face, arguing with herself about whether to go back to bed and forget it, which is what she really wanted to do, or to do what she had promised Janet she would do if she had to go in there again tonight. Janet had only been living with them for a month, just since their parents had been killed in a plane crash. Sophia had not expected to be thrust into motherhood quite so soon, but she had always promised her parents that she would take care of Janet if anything should happen to them. Besides, their nearest uncle was thousands of miles away and Sophie couldn't bear the thought of being separated from her sister. Despite their age difference, they had always been close and Sophia had always tried hard to be a good role model. So she and Delia, her partner since she had come out, had taken Janet. It had been a rough month for everyone, but Sophia and Delia had decided just last week that it was time to go over the ground rules for the house and to set some limits for their little charge. Here it was, not even a week later, and Janet had just earned herself her first spanking. Sophia stood there screwing up her courage to actually follow through with her threat. She knew she had to, because she knew Janet was just testing her to see how much she would let her get away with. She considered waking up Delia and asking for help, but decided not to. "I can do this," she said to herself. "Just stay calm and be firm. Don't let her get to you." After her little pep talk, she walked deliberately down the hall and opened the door without knocking. Janet looked up in surprise, her eyes widening at the sight of her older sister standing in the doorway. "Sophia, I can explain," she started, her voice high and nervous. "I was just—" "Save it, Janet," Sophia interrupted, shutting the door quietly. "I have heard all your excuses twice already tonight. I have no need to hear them again." She started toward her little sister. "No, Sophia, you don't understand," Janet whined. "I understand," Sophia answered, "that I told you to go to bed 6.5 hours ago and I have warned you 3 times to stay off this computer." She hit the power button on the Minotaur and watched the screen change from the game Janet had been playing to black. "I understand," she continued, keeping her voice level and trapping Janet in her chair with her body, "that you have not only violated your bedtime by an insane amount of time but have further directly disobeyed me 3 times in less than 7 hours. "Well, kiddo," she said, grasping Jordan's wrist in her hand and pulling her up to a standing position, "you just struck out." She moved toward the bed, but Janet wilted and dropped like a dead weight onto the floor. "No, Sophia, no. I'll go to bed. I won't touch the computer again tonight. I promise," Janet said in her most reasonable voice, relying on her dramatic flair to get her out of this. "You're right, Janet. You won't touch the computer again tonight. In fact, you have lost your computer for 2 weeks because of this. And yes, you will go to bed, but only after you and I take care of some business." Sophia reached down and grabbed her sister by the upper arms, picking her up easily and forcing her to the bed. She sat down, holding Janet in front of her so she could look her in the eyes. Her little sister was scared and tears had started leaking down her cheeks. "You made a promise to me, Janet Ann, and you failed to keep it. I keep my promises, and what did I promise you would happen if I had to come in here again tonight? Sophia, please. I'll go to bed right now," Janet cried. "What did I promise you?" "That you would spank me," Janet finally answered, breaking down into sobs of regret. Sophia moved Jordan to her right side and then pulled her over her lap, positioning her so her little butt was directly over her right knee so she could get good aim. She laid her left arm across Jordan's back and held her tightly against her body so she wouldn't squirm off her lap, then laid her right hand on her bottom. She felt Jordan flinch and her cheeks clenched in expectations of a spank. Please, Sophia, please. I'm sorry. I promise I'll be good. Just please don't spank me, Janet managed through her sobs. Sophia took a deep breath and closed her eyes for a moment to focus. This would be the first time that she had spanked Janet, and she knew she had to do it right. She opened her eyes again and lifted her hand high before bringing it down with a big smack. Sma! Ow, Jordan yelled. No, please, no. I'll be good, I promise. Wah. No more, pless. Sophia ignored Jordan's pleas and settled into a steady rhythm of 3 spanks, 1 on each cheek, then doubly hard right in the middle. The third smack always got a yell and more promises of being good. After about a minute, she stopped and rested her hand on Jordan's bottom. Janet Ann, she said after her sister's crying had died down some. Why are you being punished? Because I was naughty, came the anguished reply. Yes, you were a very naughty little girl. What did you do that was naughty? I didn't go to bed on time and I played, on the computer when you, you told me not to. Wow, I'm sorry. And how many times did I have to ask you to go to bed, and how many times did you disobey me? 3, Janet said miserably, tears streaming down her face and her nose running. Her bottom felt like a bunch of red ants were crawling all over it, but when she had reached back to rub it, her hand had been caught and was now folded into the small of her back. She was trapped over her sister's lap, and Sophia showed no signs of being ready to stop. 3 times I asked you, Miss Janet, and 3 times you disobeyed me. I want you to think about that every time you sit for a while. Sophia's hand went to work with renewed vigor, anxious to get it over with as much as Janet was. She worked methodically, making a circle with 3 smacks on each cheek, starting at the upper right and working clockwise to the upper left. Janet yelled and cried and carried on, kicking and squirming, but Sophia held fast and continued to spank. She finally felt Janet go limp and her wails turned to deep sobs. She stopped spanking and rubbed Jordan's back while she cried, then gently lifted her up and laid her down on the bed. Sophia gently pulled the covers over her sniffling charge. She sat on the edge of the bed rubbing Janet's back until the crying stopped, then helped her blow her nose and wiped some of the tears off her streaked face. It's all over, sweetie. All is forgiven, she said softly, leaning down to kiss Janet's forehead. I love you, Janet. I love you, too, Sophia, Janet whispered, half asleep. Get some rest. I'll see you in the morning. Jordan nodded. Sophia turned off the lamp and opened the door, looking back over her shoulder again before shutting it. She padded down the hall to her bedroom and quietly slipped into bed. She felt her tears coming and sniffled as she wiped one away. Delia rolled over and put her arm around Sophia's waist. You did the right thing, honey, she whispered into the darkness.